everyone. My name is Artem. So today I'm going to have a talk about AI for developers. I really love that I had the last talk today, so I had time to do the presentation. And no, I'm joking, I just did it using ChatGPT. So basically, let's talk a bit. So I just added, I don't know, some clickbait topic called assistant of potential threat, like, I don't know if we're going to answer this question. I'm not sure I can, but let's try. So, we're going to talk about two big parts in general about software development. The one part that I'm really familiar good with, so it's about front-end. It's also about developer experience. It's about development velocity, and it's about JavaScript. And today we are going to talk about both things, about AI and about developer experience. Okay, I did some animations. Cool. So actually, let's talk a bit about me. So who am I? Actually, I'm Artem Yavorsky, as you can read. So I'm actually super passionate about developer experience. The most important thing, I'm from Kharkiv. Kharkiv is the best city probably in the world. Unfortunately, I could not give my speech in Kharkiv because it was destroyed by Russians, but hopefully one day me, Artem, and other people who came from Kharkiv can do it like in Kharkiv and invite you from Portugal to our beautiful city. Thanks, thank you. And another thing about me that I'm actually super passionate about developer experience, and I actually try to help with open source. I participated in Babel project development a lot. We created a lot of cool presets and a lot of cool plugins, and also Babel 7. And currently, I'm just more focused on developer experience inside companies when I'm working on. And as a part of my job, I try to investigate how we can improve developer experience inside our workflow. So basically, what is developer experience? Developer experience for me specifically, it's about development fast. So it includes two things. It includes development environment, like, I don't know, IDE plugins, extensions, tools, and whatever you want, everything that help you to write code locally. And another thing, it's project environment, like something that you configured for a project, I don't know, some SLint rules, some jest configuration, and whatever. And in general, like creating developer experience fast automatically makes your development fun. Not because you want to, because you want to develop faster, and it's really cool to build your experience around developer and you developers, so you love it. So basically, another thing about development, it's about communication. So I don't know, like I specifically communicate really not a good way sometimes, specifically during my work time. So if I would take some personalities from some TV shows and explain how I communicate, I will mix probably Dwight Schrute, Sheldon, and Costanza. I don't know, like maybe you can have own personalities, but it's working for me. So for me, communication sometimes really hard. And that's why part of developer experience and developer velocity is to create some good way to create your documentation. For example, tools for docs, best practices, templates, and onboarding, and so on. It's also about types. Yeah, we're all using TypeScript, and for me, types, it's not only for your development, but also for your communication with other people when you're defining some good types and so on. Also comments, articles, messages, and so on. And another thing, it's about developer experience that we are working on, it's about infrastructure. So as a part of infrastructure, we built CI pipeline, debug, rollout, and so on. So I'm actually working also on this, and I know a few serious guys, so I decided to it's a really serious topic, so I didn't add any memes here. And why I love it in general. So in general, it's about optimizing process for developers. And from time to time, I started to think about what is development, like what I'm trying to optimize. And I think since it's the last topic and before the end, I know some people see the whole life. So maybe before the end of conference, we will see the whole life. So I just also created the meme. So what is development? Initially, I asked this question when I just wanted to be developer, when I saw some cool guys who was developers, they thought, okay. Then I thought I understand what development is. It's about algorithm, like good salary and so on. And then I understood that no, it's much bigger. And I, again, don't know what development is. So let's try to go through some history and try to understand what development is. So let's compare development. Let's compare development with something that we had in past, because from like my understanding, we have a lot of things that happened already in the past. They just these things just changing the shape, but in general, the process still became the same. So, for example, let's go to Egypt. I don't know, 2,000-3,000 years ago, and let's just go with some cool quotes that I just found. In pursuit of optimization, we embrace the harmony of efficiency and effectiveness, crafting a symphony of progress that elevates us to new heights. So basically, the important thing is that that what I wanted to show you is that we're always trying to improve. So we're improving our workflow, we're improving development process, and as developers, we're also trying to improve something that we are working on. So for example, the things that I wanted to show you, for example, Giza, 2,500 before Christ. In general, they did a lot of stuff that could be super similar to what we do now. For example, they used some science to build pyramids. I don't know, it was the theory or something, so I compared it to Stack Overflow that we use now, or maybe ChatGPT in the future. Also, they used papyrus to communicate with each other. They send papyrus as messages to where they can move a lot of information. Some days they used rocks, and then they understood that moving 1 ton, 1,000 kilogram rock could be a bit problematic, so they invented papyrus and started to communicate better, and now we communicate with Slack or Notion or documentation and so on. Also, they used astronomical observation, I don't know, could be compared to market research, Google Trends, something like this. Small-scale models of pyramids, before building the pyramids, they tried to create small pyramids, and it's kind of deploy preview, when you have it for pull request, something like this, so you can show it to your designer or to a boss that you created something. Probably Egyptians also went to someone with small pyramid and showed, we are going to build this, but like 50,000 times bigger. Also, before building, they tried to create layout on the ground, so it's compared to mocks and so on. And also they used sequential construction, so they had strictly defined rules, and they didn't go to the next rule before finish the previous one, and they showed it to kind of their own managers. And it could be compared, I don't know, to milestones when you're creating some phase by phase. Another part of civilization was medieval. And basically, it was dark times for a lot of years. And then the guy called Gutenberg created the printing press. And printing press optimized a lot of things, like it optimized the process of people writing Bible a lot of times. So Bible became more available, and we started to invest much less time on work, on some super repetitive tasks. So it was the next revolution, and finally it helped users to, it helped people to to go to Renaissance period. So this was another part of big change. It was optimization of some work that could be optimized. Another thing is industrial revolutions, when people stopped to work a lot by hands and they started to create factories. And a lot of people became didn't have job after, but anyway, the progress was continued, and finally we got a lot of new things around it, like after this, Henry Ford started to build, using factories, so started to build cars and so on. So we started to optimize another processes on the different level. If we are going more to programming topic, then we can go to example when we, during World War II, Enigma machine was opened and people can read codes from it, so Germans started to lose and so on. And even like other thing, I just generated it with Midjourney. So Univac 1, it's the first compiler. So instead of writing assembly code, people start write some more understandable code. For example, with Univac, which was created in 56 years, in 1956, people stopped to write some assembly code, which was really hard to do, and people started to write some math operations, which was compiled to some assembly code. So we won another part of time and, I don't know, another experience for some people. So development, like life is a process of optimization in general, and development is process of optimization. And that's why we are going to the next part about AI. So I think after all, like after from pyramids to today, AI is the next step, it's the next revolution. It will basically help us to improve our workflow, how we are working today. So I don't know, didn't do much slides about it. Great. So my part was about ChatGPT, and basically, what I wanted to do is to ask ChatGPT to write me a Python script which will generate a PowerPoint presentation about AI. Cool. So this is basically going to generate me PowerPoint presentation. I already did something like this before this. So I'm just going to copy this code and do something like cool. 12, I think I need to import collection. I think I just had some troubles with it before, like this. Cool, so let's try. Cool. So I'm going to run Python on presentation.py, probably like this. So here I have a presentation PTX. I'm just going to open it. Cool. Okay, so let's go. So yeah, we have overview, artificial intelligence, what is AI, history of AI. Yeah, we talked about a bit history, types of AI. No, I'm just kidding, actually. I did some slides. Cool. It's really cool that I started to mirror so you don't see content of my files. I don't know what you already saw. So basically, when I started to be interested about AI, I started to think, okay, what is it? Maybe just, I don't know, a lot of if-else. I don't know, from my JavaScript knowledge, it was something, I don't know, something that I understood. But no, AI, it's a bit more complex. And in general, AI is development of kind of computer systems that can perform tasks that would typically require human intelligence. And this is super important because despite the fact that we just have, I don't know, if-else conditions, we can train something. So based on already, based on inputs, our system could be trained, like our brain is trained when we see the new information and getting the new knowledge. So in general, AI, like I'll just do a short intro about it. I won't go into details. I know it's the end of the day. I skipped some slides about technical things. I'm going to share it with unskipped ones. So basically the AI is consists of few parts, and the main thing inside AI is machine learning. So basically machine learning helps us to learn from data. Yeah, so it's the things that help to get the data and learn from it. Also, about finding patterns that we are super interested in, and that makes kind of sense for us to just collect something, group something, and to work with this data. Another thing, it's transforming data into knowledge. Yeah, so then we're using this knowledge, like even for the ChatGPT, yeah, it's using some requests to some models that we have. That we already trained. And it's also teaching computers to learn, adapt, and evolve. Another important thing inside machine learning is deep learning. So it's more about neurons. It's kind of trying to reproduce and show the structure of human brain, and it's built with neural networks. So it makes sense that each node in our network is kind of neuron, which works pretty the same as neuron works inside our brain. And it creates some bigger layers, and each layer can get more and more information that we need, like handle more and more information that we need. So basically, and for sure it benefits from large data sets. Yeah, bigger data sets we have, better. And now why we have all this hype and everything, because people were able to get super huge data sets, like almost the whole internet, and build models around it. So basically why AI is super interested for developers. Just let's compare brains of developer and not developer. So I asked this scans from some friend who did his scan, and I did scan of not developer, and it's actually the same. I didn't find any difference. So probably if AI is trying to replicate the, how our brain is working and help us, probably developers is not exclusion here. And currently, yeah, we have kind of deep learning revolution, which started about 10 years ago, but only now it became more like hype and so on. That's why I'm talking about it. If like 6 years ago I wouldn't talk about Babel because I contributed here, I would probably talk about cryptocurrencies or something. Today I don't contribute to Babel, so I'm talking about AI. And yeah, so it basically started with AlexNet. It was first kind of one of the first neural networks publicly available. People could test it. It was contained of 8 layers of neurons, and it could analyze it analyzed a lot of data, and based on it, it could group a lot of images based on some categories. Like it could understand what's actually located and what's driven on these pictures. Then it was a lot of different things. One of most important was creating like OpenAI, when people like organized together and started to build cool things. And another thing that in 4 years after this, OpenAI became non-profit. And as a result of this, OpenAI started to do a lot of cool, it became profitable. And it was like Microsoft invested a lot of money into this. So basically they had resources and money to train and analyze a lot of data. So GPT-2 and GPT-3 was released, then Codex based on it and so on. I'm going to talk about it a bit later. So yeah, we're basically jumping into the new era of AI. And one of the, I don't know, most hypey thing, it's ChatGPT. So a lot of people thinking that ChatGPT will replace and steal our work. I'm super happy about this. Yeah, but trying to analyze in future, I really love to read a lot of futurists and some literature around it. One of the favorites is Isaac Asimov, and he wrote a lot of novels about multivac. So multivac, it's something like supercomputer that actually handles almost everything in the world. And this is just 3 random quotes from his All the Troubles of the Universe novel. So the machine knows, of course, it converts decision into actions more efficiently than any human brain could ever hope to do. So basically, multivac, it was actually created by Isaac Asimov about 80 years ago. And after this, basically multivac could handle almost all operations. People didn't use judges and law at all. They just asked multivac, and multivac actually could say who did something or something like this. Moreover, multivac could predict some some things that could happen, like someone could kill someone and it predicted it 1 year before, something like this. So this is like central data of knowledge of people that they use actually actively, and they build almost government institutions around it. And we're on the first stage, but I don't know, I think it's something super similar that we have now. So yeah, ChatGPT. Basically, what is GPT is generative pre-training transformer. So it can transform your text to something like your understandable text to something like more to tokens and then to analyze it normally. It also has ability to self-improve. And yeah, it's based on large language model, so it uses deep learning and massive large data to understand and summarize some content that we're interested in. And GPT-3 is based on 175 billion params, so each param is actually kind of weight of neuron, which can improve the result. And this amount about 20 times bigger than GPT-2. Cool, so let's talk about communication as developers. So we as developers trying to communicate, as I already showed developers, it's really sometimes hard to communicate. And ChatGPT helping us to, in general, to communicate and to improve the developer experience and workflow. So I just asked the GPT how GPT can help me if I'm a software developer. And it says everything that we actually can take advantage of. So it can help with programming languages. It supports a lot of programming languages, frameworks and libraries, software development, version control system, documentation, and so on. So it's a lot of things it can help us with. It also can help us with technical interviews. And currently we are using ChatGPT to get some questions, like to improve our questions that we're asking and to generate some questions. And also, I think some people online can use it, to pass some interviews. Basically, I just showed kind of meme about this. So if you'll ask ChatGPT to generate 5 questions, I would ask senior software developer if I would be an interviewer inside Google. It basically can act like someone from GPT-4, and it can actually ask specific questions, specifically about, I don't know, Google. Number 4, you can see that it asking Google specific question. Google is known for its emphasis on scalability and blah, blah, blah. How do you ensure high quality and high availability? Can you discuss a time when you had to design a system with these considerations in mind? And actually, you can play like this. You can just copy this question and ask ChatGPT. It will give you a really good response. So another thing, I don't know, I'm not sure what I used when I created this prompt, but I just played around some roles, and it's something about writing postmortem. So I asked something like, yesterday I was force pushed to master a few commits by accident the day before I watched The Office TV series in my office and drank beer. During this episode, I laughed so much, so knocked over a glass of beer on my hand, so it became wet. Then my manager came to the room, so I wanted to close the player tab, but instead I moved the MP4 file to the project directory and committed it. Then finally, I accidentally added it to each request that my API has, so my performance of my API became really slow. And as a result, ChatGPT was able to help me. It created a good postmortem with summary. It tried to not call me idiot or something. It was super polite. Contribution factors and so on. And also it added some steps for the future. For example, implement workspace policy that discourages distraction and encourages focus, which is a pretty good thing to do. Basically, I think it's a replacement of saying like you have idiots in your company. Okay, so yeah, it actually helps a lot. So we're using it also for postmortem. And basically prompts matter. So since you saw ChatGPT based on prompts, yeah, so you need to write really good prompt, so it will give you good answer. So for example, a lot of people started to take advantage of this prompts creation. For example, someone created marketplace for prompts. Basically, you can go to this marketplace and buy some prompts. It supports not only ChatGPT, but also DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and so on. You can, I don't know, buy prompt to write a book. Or, I don't know, get $1 million, probably. I don't know, I didn't check. It costs $2. You can check. Okay. It has filters and so on, so sounds like good investment. Okay, so another thing is ChatGPT plugins. I tried to play with plugins, and it's super fun to play. You can basically create, I'm going to show, using plugins API, you can create own plugin. Basically, it consists of two things. First thing, it's some config files that will be read by ChatGPT, and this thing actually trains a model of ChatGPT to help with future responses. For example, you can write something like, you can have operation which will send, I don't know, some request to run command endpoint, and summary, like it's run a shell command. So if ChatGPT will see something in context like run shell command, blah, 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 it will basically call this API. And I can get kind of configuration on each responses. Like if I'll have 200, I will basically, I don't know, do some different action. So, and yeah, and API is super simple. Yeah, I can just do something like on app post run command, I will just do exec from the node and run it on my computer. The simplest plugin. Actually, it's called shell plugin, available in internet. Yeah, basically, for example, someone wrote this, like did a screenshot of using this plugin when they wanted to just understand what's going on their process. Yeah, so can you show me what processes are running? I'm trying to figure out, I have many hanging processes. And this thing actually gets the process and try to analyze, and it can help you to kill the process or fix the issue. So it's basically not stupidly, I don't know, call some request. It's also trying to add some context on the top of it. Another thing of shell plugin is writing some, I don't know, Python script, which basically, I'll just move it a bit because it takes a lot of time. Oops, sorry. Oh, fuck. Yeah, sorry. Let's try again. To fetch JSON from the test site, and please write it and execute it for me. So basically, after it see that, like after it will provide some code snippet for me, it will try to execute it on my local host. Basically, it say how to do it, and you can see that I can save a file using a shell plugin, and then be able to have it in my local environment. Another thing, it's like more, I don't know, visually better, like visually cool. It's Designer GPT. So basically I can write some request, generate a website for beautiful architecture firm. So it basically uses plugin to generate some website, and I can just see it basically generated. I can also deploy it, and so on. And yeah. So another thing that was released by these guys, it's Codex. Yeah, so it's basically how ChatGPT working with code. So it's basically they took ChatGPT 3 and they took a lot of code base from GitHub, like publicly available. Actually, it's 159 gigabytes of Python code. I think now it's more. and from 54 million GitHub repositories. They used it to train on model called Codex, and then they used it saying that complete 37% of requests, support a lot of languages, and the main thing is that it was trained on Python, but it will work. It will also take advantage for JavaScript because they implemented sync code translations between languages. So you can write Python script and it will be translated to JavaScript. And that's what they're using to train it, and it's kind of universal. I just tried to play it with it, and I have a friend who created cool project, open source project called Metatyping, and it's basically just fun project which implements a lot of utils and algorithms just inside type system. It doesn't return any JavaScript code. You can see that it just basically takes a generic and works with some input. Yeah, they just sort some things that I just pass it to generic. So I just asked ChatGPT to implement tail generic only using TypeScript type system. It should not output any runtime code, no functions or variable, only types. And then it basically tried to help me. It tried to explain what I wanted to do and even understand that I really need, I don't know, some examples that I won't even use in production just for fun. So it basically it implemented for me tail generic, and yep, I could use it later. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I could use it later. How to show this video? Okay, 1 sec. Yeah, so I basically went to prompt and I just created numbers and started to use tail. As a result, I just wrapped it into my generic 1 to 3, and you can see that result is basically 2 and 3. So it was completely generated with ChatGPT. Almost it can handle a lot of cases with TypeScript also. So moreover, Copilot provides a lot of cool things about environment. So it's not only about code written, it's also about general developer experience. And then they position themselves as generic tool, which will help developers from first, I don't know, from generating the project till publishing to production. GitHub have GitHub Actions, kind of own CI tool, and it also can use your editor context and provide suggestion and then improve suggestion in the future as a part of Copilot. So yeah, in general, some basic stats like 46% code written, 55% faster coding, and 75% more fulfilled. And I just tried to create, I don't know, some simple function called capitalize each second item. Yeah, it basically provides suggestion, nothing super specific. But moreover, they're going to, like as part of GitHub Next initiative, that they're going to improve Copilot and they're going to add additional things. For example, one of the things is GitHub Copilot chat that you're going to have inside your VS Code. So you can actually, working in VS Code, you can ask ChatGPT questions, but moreover, you can just select some parts of the code that you want it to be analyzed. For example, you can use it for writing tests and so on. Moreover, you can have pull request descriptions based on the context. Since Codex is a part of Microsoft and GitHub is a part of Microsoft, they are going to have a lot of cool integration. For example, after reading some code base, I can just have after completions based on the code base that I just had committed to this pull request. Yeah, basically something like this. Another thing, it's going to create CI. Yeah, it's GitHub Actions, which are going to be generated automatically. So each GitHub action will create like additional things like Copilot check for tests. So it's basically going to check which parts of your thing, like of your pull request, wasn't covered, and it will even kind of propose you to create own tests. You are going to have suggest test button, and it will open pull request to your pull request, which are going to write tests. Yeah, like something that's going to help a lot of people. Cool. Another thing that was also created, it's by Amazon, it's called CodeWhispaper. It's some alternative for GitHub Copilot, but it's more centric around Amazon architecture. It was trained on Amazon Lambdas, and it provides a lot of code for Amazon. Basically, if you're going to write something like I want to upload some file somewhere without specification, it will, without specifying, it will actually propose to use Amazon. Copilot, on the other hand, more generic. It will try to provide you, propose you a lot of different things, but not specifically some Microsoft architecture. But the cool thing about Amazon is that they showing you part of the code and the source of this code. So basically you can see the license of the code that was suggested and the source this code generated and was trained initially for and then generated. So this is a cool thing for people who really scary about rights and so on. Cool. So based on Amazon, 27% success rate addition, 57% faster coding. Cool. So as last part of my talk, I'm going to show you a bit about natural language processing. I just want to say that it's another thing. It's kind of part of deep learning that actually combines few things, like it takes deep learning, computer science, and human language. It's basically within ChatGPT. And we will try to use it to write code. Not to generate code, but to write sources. So I was inspired by this quote by Steve McConnell in the Code Complete book. He wrote something like, write programs for people first, computers second. And so basically you need to write some understandable code because it's super important. Because first thing, people used to speak natural language and people actually read your code. So you're using your code for communication. Second thing is programming language developed by people and for people. People using programming languages to communicate with other people. And natural language programming or conversational programming is kind of paradigm that was implemented by a lot of languages. For example, AppleScript. Yeah, you can write something like tell application, finder, set desktop items. So it's basically developed in the way so people can read it like normal sentence. Another example, it's not using the same paradigm, but for example, in Swift, you can have something like named parameters when you can call your parameters so it will look like the whole sentence. For example, schedule meeting on meeting date. Yeah, so you're not calling it meeting date, you're calling it on, knowing that then you're going to type meeting date at 3 p.m. So it's kind of, you can read it really simple, so it's really cool. Also SQL, yeah, you can write super simple code, you can understand it without even technical background, you can understand what's going on. Also browsers list, it's more specific to JavaScript, but it's a tool created to configure your environment to what you're going to bundle to support what. For example, you can support not-dead browsers, last 2 versions, default, and so on. So it was developed specifically to be understandable and readable. For me, it's super important because my first pull request to Babel was to add browsers property to Babel preset env. So we started to be able to configure browsers right in normal language. And actually Babel preset env basically still using this approach, and it's the only supported approach now. So, and I'm going to show you a bit about prompt-based development. I know I'm a bit out of time, but I'll try to do it super fast. So basically, yeah, this is my presentation. It was cool. So basically, I thought, okay, what if we'll try to, I just generated Next.js project. It's just normal project with I don't know, JS6, it's just React and so on. So I thought, okay, what if we will try to create models? What if I just don't want to write code? I don't know, I'm just really super lazy. I don't know, maybe it's because of summer is coming or something like this, but I don't want to write code. And this is problem. My manager also doesn't like it. And maybe my manager will be, I don't know, more happy if I'll try to create something better. So one of ideas for me was to just create models that I just can write instead of JavaScript. I can just write a model with requirements what I want to be in this model. So let it just be something like I just wrote something like, so I just want model that will have a function which will add so basically my idea was to improve Fest.dev website. I think it's missing few things, few important things. First thing, it's basically I think it's missing some motivation. So why I love to code and why I want to, I don't know, live and so on. So I just wanted to add some motivational phrase function which will add a motivational phrase to the end of the string, exported by default. Cool. Okay, so I just added this, let it be like here. I'm just going to run my project. Well, hopefully it will work. Usually demo's not going super smoothly, sorry. Okay, so let it be compiled. I'll drink water a bit. Cool, so it's just black screen. I think it's expected. I'll just write something like, hey. Okay, I see, hey, cool. So I'm going to import function, like my format function, from actually utils format. Yeah. What's saying? Probably I need to add extension because it doesn't know what GPT yet. It's not part of the standard of JavaScript. Hopefully it will be changed someday. Basically, and then I'm just going to write something like, I don't know, header, and inside this I'm going to use format, something like welcome to Fest.dev y, and then I'm just going to compile. Cool. Welcome to Fest.dev y, you can do it. Artem, I don't know, maybe you can add this widget or something like this. But the cool thing about it, it's not even using requests, you can see the result. It just added, you can do it. So basically it's like a ahead of time compilation. It's even more optimized that having real requests. I think real requests is like for past. This is future. We already have code. We know what people will ask and rendering it. Another thing, it's supporting other thing. It's just called I don't know, welcome GPTX. Yes, so I'm going to return GPTX. Like GPTX is basically like GPT, but I added X because it should return React components. So it should return React component, which will show 5 best cocktail bar in Porto to go. Okay. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to import it like here. Import welcome from components GPTX, and I'm going to just render it. And then I don't know, export that as default, like just for case. Okay, so I'm going to save it. I'll try to render, hopefully it will work. Cool. So we just rendered a component inside like our React code base. We just imported it like called welcome, and we just injected it in our JSX by asking requirement to render 5 best cocktail bars in Porto. And I can see it looks like this. Maybe I can also do additional things. And looks sexy. It's still compiling, sorry. Cool. It just updated something. Looks not really sexy. But anyway, So you got the idea. We just basically could render some items and so on inside our JS6, just using. Basically, I created this plugin. I think 15 minutes. It took take me 15 minutes or something, and it just communicates with OpenAI API. But you can still have real projects without real code, just asking what you want to be in these models. I think I'm going to call it plugins for architecture, who don't want to write code, who know what should be, but doesn't know how. And yeah, this is the idea. Cool. And last part, it's about issues. So if I'm finishing, I promise. So basically, what issues AI has, is it going to replace us? I need more water. Basically, I'm not sure, because I just added photos of one of my favorite street photographers who do a lot of, his name is Daniel Arnold, and he's doing a lot of cool photos in New York or in other parts of the world. And basically it shows the main thing, that people super different. And AI is basically trained, and it just has kind of model that try to collect all knowledges of the people and try to produce something good. But the fact that people has advantages and disadvantages, and some advantages being highlighted even only if you have some specific disadvantages. And if you don't have any disadvantages, then it's probably too artificial. And basically, we don't want to have something super artificial in our life. We really love something natural. And I think AI makes everything kind of not really natural. Another thing is 40% of code has security vulnerabilities. So you need to still check your code, and it makes you lazy. When AI develops something for you, you can miss a lot of things. You can miss like security stuff. You can just create some bugs and so on. So still you need to take more attention, and sometimes it's really harder because you're just super lazy. You just trust something that helps you 10 times, and on 11th it will just do some huge things that finally can break and destroy whatever you had 10 times before. Another thing is privacy issues. So since it is trained on some public code, still people accidentally could commit some tokens, or they could even commit some tokens that expecting people to not use it. Another important parts, and basically it was some issue. It was some issue that people saw that AI helping, like in suggestion, using tokens and all this shit. So, and it wasn't really secure because it used in after completion the code that was produced by developers. And developers could produce different code, including some personal. Also trying to use deprecated practice, because sometimes ChatGPT still going through code base which was created 5 years ago or something, and it's a lot of cases when it's trying to, I don't know, replace something, I don't know, some new modern practices using something old. But hopefully it will be improved. And last thing, it's copyright issues. Since code and, I don't know, in general, everything that, and any data that we used for training models, AI models, was taken from, I don't know, publicly available resources. The problem is that people didn't give agreement for this. And people started to get some lawsuits about how it should be if people didn't want their data to be used inside this model and so on. And even for code base, GitHub currently adding some specific filters that will ensure that the code that Copilot suggests you is not exist yet in the GitHub public repos, but they still saying that about 1% of the code suggestions is an exact copy of what we already have inside GitHub. So basically, copyright issues, yeah, it's a big problem. And I'm just going to finish with David McCullough quote. So technology is cool. People are users. It's not about what technology can do, it's about what we can do with it. And yep, that's basically my final slide. Also, help Ukraine. We have some websites where you can donate and help our country. So the next conference will be in Kharkiv. And also my social networks, please follow me, free subscription, and so on.